Why did October 7th happen? Check out this clip from Douglas Murray on the Trigonometry podcast, where he's asked this question directly. So we'll watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
Why did October 7th happen, Douglas?
It'll probably take a full inquiry into finding out exactly what went wrong on the Israeli side, that it was possible that Hamas could have come so far up inside the center of Israel. But I know and write about some of the reasons why. First thing is, by the way, is not related to the defensive bit of it, but the aggressive bit of it. Why did Hamas do it? We know a lot about that now. It was a plan of their bosses in Tehran that Hamas would come up through the south of the country, south of Israel. Hezbollah would come through the north, and they would effectively strangle Israel from the middle. We know that now because of the documents and other things caught in Lebanon from Hezbollah. So that was a plan. Hamas went off a little early, didn't feel that they could communicate with Hezbollah about the exact timing of the attack without it being intercepted. So Hezbollah was slightly surprised. And although Hamas attacked on the 7th of October, Hezbollah started firing missiles straight away by the 8th. Nevertheless, by that point, a significant number of IDF soldiers had been sent up north, and Hezbollah did not make an incursion on the ground from the north. Otherwise, what happened in the south of Israel on October 7th would have happened across the north as well, and it's possible that the terrorist armies could have met in the middle. That was the plan that Iran knew about, the Iranian revolutionary government. And the aim was to completely annihilate Israel. And Yahya Sinwar, who planned the 7th from Hamas, who had previously been in an Israeli prison, where he was found to have a brain tumor, which he was diagnosed by a Jewish dentist who worked with him, saved his life. The Israelis then operated on Sinwar to save the brain tumor from killing him. And he was released in a prisoner exchange in 2011 for one of 1,000 people released for the release of the Israeli hostage, Gilad Shalit. Sinwar, after he was released, said publicly many times what he wanted to do. He said in private to the doctor who saved his life, he said, "Now you, Israel, are strong. One day you'll be weak, and then I'll attack." And he was true to his word. And what's more, in the years after he was released from prison, when he went back to being one of the senior leaders of Hamas and then the leader in Gaza, he said repeatedly what he wanted to do. And he said, among other things, he said, "We're going to go in and we're going to tear their hearts out from their bodies." And he was true to his word.
And you say that he said this, and I'm sure it makes sense from his perspective, that I will attack when you're weak. Why was Israel weak?
Well, that is definitely a sort of it's the big question for Israel and its defense. I'd say there's a set of reasons. One was definitely the perception there'd been in the year before the 7th, there'd been this intense internal turmoil in Israel about a question of judicial reform that almost nobody inside Israel understands and nobody outside understands. But there were demonstrations by left-wing Israelis every day, every week, against the government's proposed judicial reforms. This definitely meant that the police were overstretched in that period. And many people think that made Israel look, from Sinwar's point of view, from Hamas and Hezbollah's point of view, and from Iran's point of view, made them look internally divided. And there's something in that. An Israeli friend of mine said to me a few weeks after the 7th in Jerusalem, and he said, in some ways Hamas were stupid. If they'd left it another year, we'd have all killed each other. So there is a sort of lesson about internal turmoil, and there's something almost biblical about that, the Jews are all fighting among each other, and then an external enemy comes to annihilate them, and then suddenly they realize that actually there are more important things. There were technical things that went wrong, which is going to take a while to work out. There were intelligence failures. There was what has been called the conception which was wrong. The conception, I think, among Israeli military and many politicians was that Hamas had got to that point that some terrorist groups get to where they don't mind just being corrupt and, getting on with their lives. Every head of Hamas was a billionaire by October 2023. Ismail Haniyeh, worth something like 3 or 4 billion, living in Qatar in luxury penthouse apartments his sons also lived in. And there was a perception that maybe the Hamas leadership were like so many other people in history, like the Soviet leadership and others. At some point, you sort of don't really believe the ideology is just happy being corrupt and relatively rich. That was completely mistaken in the case of Hamas. They really meant it. Sinwar and others, they really meant it. And so that's one thing. There were intelligence failures, definitely. Technological failures, certainly. And then a certain amount of luck for Hamas. It's said that they didn't know that the Nova Party was going on in Re'im. So when the paragliders landed on the morning and the trucks of Hamas terrorists came in, they were delighted to find hundreds and hundreds of unarmed young Israelis dancing.
There's one point I think that he brings out that's a very important spiritual principle. Weakness happens when there's no unity. The divine blessing is only there when people work together, when people are together, when people are respectful of each other. There's a phrase that we say every day in our prayers, Barchenu Avinu Kulanu Ke'echad. Bless us, Hashem, as we are together as one. It's our oneness, it's our being together as one that makes the blessing of God come upon us. And when there is infighting and when there is squabbles, not only is it a perceived weakness from the outside, because it is, but it's also the spiritual blessings that are conferred upon our people are only there when we are in a state of unity. So it's something to think about. Unity will bring redemption. Unity will bring blessings from Hashem as well. One of the things that we are taught in our tradition is that the second temple that stood was destroyed because of baseless hatred, infighting between different groups, and that temple has not been rebuilt for 2,000 years. That temple has not been rebuilt for 2,000 years. So you see the repercussions of what happens when we are not together as one. And so in the same way that it was destroyed through baseless hatred, it will be rebuilt through baseless love. In the same way that curses have come upon our people through infighting and in squabbles and disunity, that blessings will come in the reverse when we have peace amongst each other. Let's hope that we can work towards that in a very speedily and seamless way. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.